on ABC Radio Melbourne. You're with Rochelle Hunt.
Well, it's an ongoing conversation that we have here on this program, around our dinner tables, in our cars, at our schools, with friends, family, neighbours, and it's looking at the mental health of our kids and the role that schools play. And what do you do if you have a child that maybe can't concentrate at school, that feels like they can't fit in? There are so many different ways of looking at it, and sometimes you feel like there is just no hope and no help. Well, Grant Shannon was a school teacher, is a former Bendigo primary school teacher, and he's started a group called Dogs Connect. This is quite literally taking a dog into school. Yep, your school has a dog, and it makes a huge difference. Grant Shannon, welcome to Afternoons.
Thanks, Rochelle.
How did this idea come about? How did a former primary school teacher get a dog into a school and then notice some differences and changes when it comes to behavioural issues and mental health issues?
It's interesting in your introduction, just thinking back to when I was a primary school teacher and working with children who presented some challenges for me as a teacher, and thinking, how can I be working with these children on a level and suiting their needs a little bit more, so on a different level. And an idea came to me about bringing dogs into the lives of children in school. So it was a little bit left of centre in terms of how I would normally think about meeting children's needs, but it was combined with some research I was doing at the time around student wellbeing. So the idea was born as a school teacher, and it was gradually implemented, and it's become the Dogs Connect program now, and it's amazing because my vision initially was to work with children on a level where I felt like I could meet their needs a little bit more. So now it's turning into a program that's in several schools, and for me personally, it's amazing to see the impacts and to see the effect that it can have on so many children. It's a dream for me.
It's interesting too because, first instinct might be if you have a child that has some behavioural issues, maybe a little bit of hyperactivity or whatever it might be, you introduce a dog into that space, surely it's just going to hype them up more. But I spoke to a gentleman that does some very similar work to you, but with kids that are really at risk, and he takes them out to his property and he works on a dog show with them. And he said there's something about dogs that just brings people down. There's an equality and there's a calmness and there's an understanding, and dogs don't judge.
Yes, I think that we all understand that there's something about dogs and the connection between people and dogs. And I think a lot of people do think, well, if you take a dog into a classroom, surely it's going to be chaos. And probably it could be, but the work that we do is really thorough in terms of setting a school up to have a dog as part of their community. So there's lots of work involved in preparing for this so that there can be harmony in the school setting between the people and the dog. And probably need to say that most of the work goes into the people, and on some front more work goes into the adults than the children.
So how does it work, Grant? Surely you don't just drop a Labrador off or whatever it might be, a Cocker Spaniel to a school, and then that's it, job's done. What role does the dog play and how does it help?
Yeah, good question. The whole picture is about wellbeing, so it's for schools who would like to address the wellbeing of their staff and students a little bit more. And we know that students who are connected to the place of learning are students who succeed in lots of different levels and areas of life. So it really works on wellbeing and connection within the school community to begin with, and then over a period of time we go on a journey with staff and with the community around how we can use the dog as a teaching tool and if you like, as another staff member.
So he's literally or she's literally in the classroom sometimes?
Yes, most of the time. I shouldn't say all of the time, but in most of the schools who are undertaking this work, they have a dog who attends the school each day, and it could be timetabled to be in several classrooms or rooms or areas on any given day, and the work that the dog is involved in is really structured and there's a lot of process behind it, but it's really deliberately done so that it looks subtle, if that makes sense, so that to the naked eye it would look like there's just a dog in the school, but there's a really specific reason behind what it's doing and why and when and how.
So do you then work with the teachers and the principal on a level of training? Because if you brought a dog into my classroom, I wouldn't know how to utilise it.
Yes, we do. We work with staff in general, some more than others, but generally whole school staff, around how you can use a dog as a teaching tool. So this program is supposed to support students, but also support staff in their working life. So really specifically, we end up looking at teaching a lot of social and emotional based learning through using the dog as a conduit, as an engagement tool, as a demonstration tool. And it seems to be, and this is the bit that's easy to understand, it just seems to be so easy to embed some really deep learning with a dog in the mix compared to without one.
And why is that, do you think?
Well, I think it comes down to what we initially said, the connection between people and dogs. It just so naturally happens, and it goes back a long way. And I think between children and dogs, it happens maybe a little bit more naturally because there hasn't maybe been opportunities for different layers of complexity built into young people until they grow older, of course. So it just seems to happen beautifully, and to build learning and well-being and connectedness into the school setting around this connection is my passion, and it's fueled by the impacts that we see. We see some amazing impacts. Like
what? What are some of the changes that you see with students? How's that helped?
It's really it's so different in every school, but some of the impacts we see are around really big stuff for kids. So young people who might be 10 or 11 or 12 years old who are having a lot of difficulty in life, and maybe it may be presenting in so many different ways, but the effect may be that it's a total school refusal state. So students are refusing to even come to school, and through this work we see a really clean and rapid turnaround that can bring lots of ease into that particular student coming to school. So getting out of the car can be difficult in the morning for some people who have a lot of trauma and difficulty in their background, and just the connection alone can make a big impact on that. But we can go further and deeper into some really specific learning, and it's amazing to see some people have specific social learning, so that it may be, at the moment we're working in several schools and using the dog to show children how to regulate themselves, so how to check in on their heart rate and how to make a link between their heart rate and their level of intensity in their emotions, and then using the dog to show them and teach them how to regulate their own emotions, and how to acknowledge that co-regulation is okay too. So to see young people check in on their heart rate, regulate their emotions, speak to the teacher about the fact that they need a minute to enact,
feeling stressed or whatever it may be.
And building strategies that they can call on to regulate themselves. So really amazing to see. Incidentals are the likes of one young girl at a school who has never touched the dog that's been at the school for almost 2 years, but we know that she comes to school early because she loves to see the dog arrive.
Oh, that just melted my heart.
That can't be measured, and it can't be measured, but there's so much of it that can't be, and measuring it is something that we know we need to do, and we certainly do generate and collect data because this work needs to be evidence-based. And we're partnered with La Trobe Uni and the School of Education here in Bendigo around how to do that effectively. But
so
a lot
more
of
research is being done so that it can become more common practice. I mean, I've got a text here from Peter, the principal, saying this bloke is a genius. This is something we knew all along. That's why dogs are welcome here at Pascoe Vale North Primary.
Yeah, and this isn't anything new, but we're building a way for schools to have confidence in doing it, because there needs to be, for this to be doable for a school, there needs to be a process and structures, and the legalities need to be considered, and schools need to feel like it's okay to do this and it's not a risk. But I think the incidentals and the impacts and the things that we talk about, they don't really surprise me, but at the same time, they really do blow me away on a daily basis. It's amazing to see, and it fuels my passion on a daily basis.
Grant Shannon is with you, the founder of Dogs Connect, who's a former primary school teacher in Bendigo. Grant, I'm just going to take a call from Melissa, who is all for dogs in school. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, how are you going?
Good. What did you want to say?
I'd just like to share what I've just been hearing from Grant. I work in a school with special needs children, and they range from very early intervention all the way through to a high school level. And I've had my Kelpie with me for 7 years working in that school. It's a school in Dandenong, and there are lots of kids that have experienced trauma, behavioural issues, are on the spectrum, Tourette's, huge range of, special needs. And Ellie has been, that's my dog's name, has been an absolute bonus to this school in many areas that Grant was talking about.
And does it depend on the dog, Melissa, do you think? I mean, Kelpies are pretty special breeds, aren't they?
Kelpies are special breeds. They're very high energy, and some people might argue that, the energy level might exacerbate the children's behaviour. It certainly has the opposite effect with Ellie, because she started at the school at a very young age. She's grown up with the students, and she's learnt, to manage when there's we do have a lot of aggressive behaviour in the school, and not one of the students that does display that behaviour has ever displayed that towards Ellie. She has, taught students have come. We have a lot of diverse, multicultural range of students in the school, some of which culturally dogs aren't accepted. And, they often are very frightened of dogs. And then Ellie has turned them around and actually taught kids how to not respond, in a scared manner when a dog approaches them. And so some of these children that literally were screaming and running up the walls when they saw Ellie are now, probably more so obsessed with Ellie than any of the other kids. So
Melissa, did you read something, say, similar to what Grant has done, or where did the idea come from to take your dog into school?
Well, it originated from another lady who used to have her little white dog that used to come to school just as wasn't sort of a working in part of the school, but just used to come with her to school. And very unfortunately, she passed away. And then we got a Kelpie at our family, and I just asked if I could bring her in to show the students, and it just went from there. And I mean, it's an absolutely amazing benefit to all the kids, to all the staff. She has a regular birthday party every year, and the kids get invited to. I mean, she's got her own Instagram account too now, Ellie the Kelpie, and she's just absolutely, even the students with Tourette's, it's so calming for the kids. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm grateful that the principal, allows her to be there because she sees the benefits
of that. Melissa, thank you so much for sharing that story, Grant. I mean, you would know all of those benefits that Melissa's talking about. I mean, another text from Julie, who's in Bendigo as well, so a fellow, a local there, saying, I've heard so much about this program and its effectiveness. It's just incredible. But Grant, it feels like too, it's kind of happening organically around society.
I think it is, Rochelle, and I think that we know in today's society there's a lot of disconnect in general, but in young people especially, and we know that mental health of young people is becoming more of an issue, and it seems to be, which is great for me to see, that school leaders like school principals and people on staff in schools are starting to sit back and think, well, well-being really must come first with young people, and for people to be able to learn and to be able to grow, then there needs to be well-being and connection as a foundation, and that's what really excites me. And it always excites me to hear from people like Melissa, who have, who are just doing this because they know that the connection's there and they know that the potential is amazing, and it's great to hear about.
Hi, Jennifer. You wanted to share your story?
Hi, Rochelle. Yes, thanks. Rochelle, I, with my dog, Lola, who's also a Kelpie, we do Story Dogs. And Story Dogs is a charity right across Australia. And we go into primary schools and we see the same children every week. So we go in and we see 4 children every week, and they come and they read to our dogs. So it's for children who are either struggling with their reading or perhaps might have other issues. And dogs are just completely non-judgmental, of course.
I think that's the main thing that comes up, is that they are non-judgmental. And as Grant has said, is that sometimes it's the impetus to actually get kids to school.
And look, this primary school that where I work, they just adore their Story Dogs. And the children, the way they've set it up is very clever. So the children that get read with Story Dogs just think they're so privileged. It's such a big fillet for them in their lives. And that's wonderful. Instead of feeling like they're the ones that can't read, they feel like they're so special.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, Grant, congratulations. Lots of text love coming in for you. If people are listening to this, is this just a regional Victoria program?
Thanks, Rochelle. We're growing. This business is growing due to the need, and we're certainly talking to people in New South Wales and Queensland and right across Victoria at the moment in schools. If anybody is interested in talking to us or learning more about the Dogs Connect program, they can make contact fairly easily just by finding us on the web at dogsconnect.net.au. We'd be happy to talk about it to anyone.
Grant Shannon, founder and former primary school teacher in Bendigo, thank you so much for joining us on Afternoons. Congratulations on the work that you do.
Thank you, Rochelle.